The seizure of the southern Philippines was a crucial phase in the Japanese invasion of the Philippines during World War II. It took place primarily in 1942, after Japan's initial successful landings on the island of Luzon and the subsequent fall of Bataan. The capture of the southern Philippine Islands was a key part of Japan's strategy to solidify control over the entire archipelago and further disrupt Allied operations in the Pacific. 1. The Japanese strategy and initial attacks. After the Bataan surrender in April 1942, the Japanese set their sights on the southern Philippines, particularly the islands of Mindanao, Cebu, Negros, and Panay. These islands were critical for military control, as they provided strategic locations for air bases, ports, and naval operations, further isolating the American and Filipino forces on Corregidor and completing Japan's hold on the Philippines. In May 1942, Japan began its assault on Mindanao, which was considered the stronghold of American and Filipino resistance after the fall of Bataan. The Japanese forces, having secured the northern Philippines, moved southward in a swift and coordinated manner to capture key locations. 2. The battle for Mindanao and other islands. The initial landings on Mindanao began in early May 1942, with Japanese forces landing at Davao and Zamboanga. The defenders, mainly Filipino guerrillas, fought back but were no match for the overwhelming Japanese forces, who quickly established control over major towns and strategic locations. Cebu and Negros were attacked soon after, and the Japanese also launched operations to capture Panay. The Philippine military forces, weakened from months of fighting, were unable to mount a successful resistance. In each of these islands, small bands of guerrilla fighters continued to resist Japanese control, but their efforts were scattered and lacked sufficient coordination to pose a significant threat to the invaders. 3. Aftermath and Japanese consolidation. By mid-1942, Japan had successfully seized the southern Philippines and consolidated its control over these islands. The capture of Mindanao and other key islands removed any significant remaining opposition in the south. The Japanese quickly moved to fortify the region, building airstrips and military bases that would later be used to launch attacks on the rest of the Philippines and the broader Pacific theater. The Japanese also sought to impose strict control over the local population, using forced labor and military occupation to secure their hold on the region. While some areas saw continued resistance from local guerrilla fighters, most of the southern Philippines remained under Japanese occupation until the Allied liberation efforts in 1944. 4. Legacy and impact. The seizure of the southern Philippines played a key role in the Japanese strategy to cut off the Allied forces from reinforcements and supplies, as well as in controlling critical parts of the Pacific. It effectively ensured Japan's dominance over the Philippines and isolated the remaining Allied forces on Corregidor and the Bataan Peninsula. While Japanese control was eventually broken during the Philippine Liberation Campaign of 1944 to 1945, the occupation of the southern islands represented a dark chapter of the Philippines' World War II experience, marked by brutal occupation and guerrilla resistance.